Fantastic. Good afternoon, all. Really appreciate everybody joining. This is uh, the May installment of the NetSuite Partner Spotlight series that Meridian Business has been sponsoring. Abby, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and hit the next slide. Before we dive in on RF Smart, I do want to just direct your attention to the right-hand side of this slide. June 23rd at 1 p.m., we will be hosting our next Spotlight series with Celigo. If you're not familiar with Celigo, they are an integration platform as a service provider, business process optimization platform, helping folks integrate um, uh, any and all types of applications and business processes to the NetSuite landscape. But today's focus is on RF Smart. RF Smart has a mobile inventory management solution. Meridian has worked on a number of projects with RF Smart, and they have integrated over 1,500 NetSuite clients to their uh, solution that they'll be spotlighting today, including a short demonstration. You'll see how NetSuite or how RF Smart can help you improve accuracy on the shop floor in the receiving, inventory control, inventory counting, picking, and work in process. Little commercial about Meridian. We're a Midwest-based NetSuite certified partner, helping organizations determine the best fit of the NetSuite configuration for their business, business process needs assessments, and really the third-party solution analysis and research is the kind of transition point to RF Smart. We kind of act as a general contractor to find optimal solutions, for things that NetSuite may or may not do natively. And RF Smart is a partner that we have, as I mentioned, done quite a bit of work with. And with that as preamble, I'll turn it over to our guests, Abby Bennett and Kyle McClinton, to take you through an overview of the RF Smart solution. Abby, I'll kick it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Doug and Jenny. We're so happy to be here sharing with you guys today. Really just a roadmap for how we want to handle this presentation. We're just going to talk a little bit about who RF Smart is. I'll talk a little bit about me and Kyle's representation in the company, what we do, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how we work in the overall ecosystem and certainly how we work with partners like Meridian. So first off, some introductions. I'm Abby Bennett. I'm a partner engagement executive based in Knoxville, Tennessee. I work with partners in the central United States, so I've gotten to work with Meridian quite a bit since I started, and I second their commercial. They're a great company, so definitely people you want to work with. And then we've got Kyle on the call. He's going to give us a little bit of a high level, almost a mini demo to kind of show you what the interface looks like and how RF Smart works in live time with NetSuite if you do choose to implement the product. So we'll go from there. Firstly, I just bit about who RF Smart is as a company. It'll kind of set the stage for the why we do the functionality that we do and kind of our thought process behind it. But we have been doing inventory management solutions for the last 40 years. Since 1982, we actually are celebrating 40 years this September. So we've been owned and operated by the Morales family since then. And they've built a really creative, successful team. And like they said, 1,500 customers on the NetSuite platform as of this year, which is really exciting. We've also built over 70 workflows built for NetSuite, and we'll talk a little bit more about that distinction in the next slide. But our mission at RF Smart is really important to us. It's the heart of everything that we do. We exist to transform customers and change lives. And one of the ways we do that is working with companies like yourselves and offering an exceptional product that can scale for you and your business as it grows. So we're always growing, largely due to the amount of money we put into research and development each year. You can see that's 16 million this year. And I bet if you watch another presentation like this next year, that number is going to be higher. We're always striving to make our solutions solution more scalable and more profitable for you as you implement. And additionally, we transform our customers and change lives through our consultative experience. So like I said, we're celebrating 40 years this year. We have many team members that have been there for almost that entire time. So we have some really great industry experts. One of the reasons we like working with Meridian is because their team mirrors that as well. We really want to work with the best of the best. And so we've kind of created that culture at RF Smart, which is really exciting. We have over 2,000 customers in 33 countries. So we do have a global presence. Our headquarters is in Jacksonville, Florida. We just opened up another office in Denver, Colorado. We also have an office in the UK and Australia as well. So be sure to stop by if you're in the area. But we're happy to be a global business with a really tight-knit feel to make sure we're offering the best support for you as the customer as possible. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is this status of built for NetSuite. So I know some of you on the call probably have implemented NetSuite already. Some of you are looking, but this is an important distinction that you should be looking at when you're talking about adding on a third-party solution to your NetSuite database. So there are 3 different badges you can have as a Suite app on suiteapp.com, which is basically a third-party solution added onto your NetSuite platform. We are native Suite apps. So you can read the differences between integrated and hybrid. I won't go too far into that. But the reason I point out native is because when you're looking for functionality to help you pick, pack, and ship, you need to be aware of what built for NetSuite means, specifically being a native Suite app solution. This means that we're built on top of NetSuite. So we're operating on the database that updates in your NetSuite instance in live time. And the reason this is important is because that's what gives you the real live time, quick inventory access that you want. It's not 2 different databases communicating with each other, but rather we keep NetSuite as the system of truth. You're going to hear us say that. You'll probably hear Kyle say it at least once when he's presenting, but keeping NetSuite as the system of truth further affirms all the hard work your implementation partner Meridian will do on your NetSuite deal, but then it's also going to make sure that you have all the access you need all in one place. So it's a win-win on both sides of that. We're big story people here. We love our customers and we love seeing how adding RF Smart has encouraged growth in their company. So I'll start off with a customer story to kind of set the stage for one use case in which we were successful. So this is about petshop.co.uk. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a company, of course, in the UK that provide pet supplies on a subscription basis and then also online pet store. So they have over 10,000 products in stock from some really big major brands. So they came to RF Smart wanting to improve their warehouse performance just as a whole. They were growing. They had that scaling piece, needed to tackle some of the inefficiencies they were having with some of their manual processes. And that's kind of when they came to us. So they had implemented NetSuite in 2014, and then they moved on to a bigger warehouse, and so WMS was definitely the next step. And they had a lot of manual processes, which is I'm sure some of you are dealing with as well. They were printing everything on paper, having lots of mistakes with picking, especially during peak periods, which was ultimately affecting customer satisfaction. And then they didn't have reliable or accurate data, which led to redundant stock and a whole host of other issues. Also, they had food and medicines that were being ingested by animals, so they were having issues with expirations and redundant stock, and it was just a lot of things to be tackled. So they got involved with the RF Smart team and had some really great success, as you can see on the right there. They added things like bin put away, item lookup, some of our picking functionality, and just gained that full visibility that they needed into the warehouse to be successful. So you can see on the right a few things that I think are really encouraging here. Of course, far fewer errors when it comes to counting, which is very important, but also look at that customer retention. It bumped up 30%, which for a growing company is not only impressive, but really, really important. Especially on their subscription model. And then again, they were able to use a lot of these metrics that they hadn't had before to find those KPIs that were ultimately going to help them with further growth. So it's a great story. You can read their full case study on our website if you're interested, but that's kind of a good picture of what RF Smart can do. And we'll talk a little bit more about that moving forward. So we are a mobile barcoding solution, right? So where do you see that in the warehouse? This graphic's kind of helpful, but basically the answer is everywhere as you're looking at this. When we work with partners like Meridian who have, a vast knowledge of best practices on the business consulting NetSuite side of things, we want to match that with our WMS expertise to create a really holistic solution to improve all aspects of warehouse management. And as you can see here, that's exactly what RF Smart does. So Really depending on the customer need, RF Smart can do much more than just receiving and scanning, even though that is where it begins in the warehouse and is vitally important. We have a whole host of functionality options to improve efficiency in the warehouse. So for example, for maybe a larger warehouse, it might be hugely beneficial to employ our advanced picking logic to route pickers in the warehouse to the fastest and most efficient locations. This is certainly an option we have. Additionally, we can be a part of advanced manufacturing needs. So that's work order issuing, work order tracking, and even labor analytics, and much, much more. You can see on this graphic, there's many, many different things, but all of these possibilities are a part of our overall value at RF Smart. We are a full warehouse solution backed by a team of industry experts, and partnering with teams like Meridian, we want to create that full solution to really get you as efficient as possible. We talked a little bit about this already, but scalability is a huge part of the DNA of RF Smart and ultimately how we operate and add research and development into our products. If you're looking at this graphic here, all the way from pre-revenue to billion-dollar publicly traded companies, we have a hand in many, many different companies in all of these different phases of growth. I think our lowest use case is probably around 3 to 5 users. And from there on up, we have some really great technically advanced functionality that can meet you as a company where you are in your growth cycle. And it, again, built for NetSuite, it builds on the advanced capabilities of NetSuite. NetSuite is a very scalable solution. And we at RF Smart match that by having various capabilities that can meet you in the pre-revenue phase, mid-tier, all the way past that. So scalability is a big part of what makes us unique. It's also important because we have, once you become a live customer on NetSuite, you are going to be given a strategic account executive. They're kind of like our project managers. Their whole goal and solution is to make sure that you are continuing to grow with our software in the best way possible. So continuing to ask the right questions, seeing if you need additional functionality, and ultimately keeping RF Smart functionally optimal for your warehouse as you grow. So a big part of us as a company and what we stand for. And then additionally, not only do we want you to have inventory accuracy, know how many of this and that you have in your warehouse, but it's a lot more than that. We want you to have the metrics to ultimately make wise decisions as you move forward in your business processes and planning for the future. So yes, we want you to have stat count details, but we want you to have a really good insight into your productivity. So that can look like a lot of different things. Is your bin put away being productive? Do you need better picking logic to move that forward? Is your pack station shipped orders productive? Are you losing orders? Having these KPIs can ultimately be helpful as you make decisions moving forward about hiring, about your workflow processes, maybe updating something in your NetSuite instance or your RF Smart instance. So that's a big piece of what we do, not only cleaning up the inventory, but making sure every aspect of your warehouse is being accounted for and you have really good visibility into what's going on. And so ultimately, this all culminates, right, into our main goal, which is supply chain efficiency. I don't know about you, every time I see the phrase supply chain, I get a little nervous. The last 2 years have not been easy in that arena, but that is one of the reasons that WMS has become so vitally important for many NetSuite users like yourselves. It really can cut out some of that, that worry and that fear because you ultimately end up controlling what you can control, and that begins and ends in your warehouse. So the first thing is supply chain visibility. Like I said, being able to see in real time what's going on in your warehouse is incredibly important. You can't always control the speed on which your inventory arrives when it's coming from overseas or another state, but you certainly can manage your in-house supply chain in the most efficient way to make sure you order, the right products at the right time, making sure you know the location, you know the amounts, you know the expirations. This is all part of that visibility that's really important. And then from there, worker productivity. I wonder if any of you have a warehouse right now or dealing with any of these issues, but I know labor is the second highest cost organization. So understanding how your productivity is doing is paramount, right? And part of our solution is giving you the tools to understand who is doing what, when that's happening, tracking if necessary, and getting your team working on what you ultimately hired them for, right? Which is inventory management, not data entry and manual counting. And then also inventory accuracy, probably the most obvious when you think about WMS, but your inventory is your greatest asset. as a product-based company. Inventory has to be organized so it doesn't get mixed up in receiving or lost. Additionally, counting and shipping are all very important elements that inventory is involved in. So our barcoding solution really helps clean this up, and it mitigates that risk and minimizes the amount of data errors. And by ensuring the product is correct, it can save you a lot of money and keep customers happy, which is ultimately the goal. And then lastly, shipping accuracy. You as a company, I'm sure you face all sorts of costs, but one of these costs that is most avoidable is related to shipping errors. We've helped many organizations bring more money to the bottom line by just correcting this area and making sure the product that goes out is always the right product, avoiding returns, reshipping, and even the fines you're going to get from big box retailers if there are errors. And again, all of this culminates to improve the customer experience and higher retention, which makes you as a business owner in a stronger place to continue forward. So I want to look at just two different examples of manual versus automated, because that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about adding RF Smart as a WMS solution, is really automating some of your processes, cleaning them up and making them a lot cleaner and more efficient moving forward. So let's talk about receiving. It's the first part of the whole process, right? So if we're looking at the manual process, and some of you may be doing a process similar to this, or you have done in the past, so you probably know the pain points fairly well, but let's look at one example. So the first step when you are doing the manual receiving is you're going to pull and print all those packing slips, depending on how many. I'm sure there's a whole stack. You've seen them before. And then you're going to get paper and pencil, and you're going to go and count the record exactly what is received. You're going to have many warehouse workers doing this potentially, depending on how big the load is. It's a much lengthier process. Additionally, they need to manually record any discrepancies. If something doesn't look right on the packing slip, they'll have to manually record that. Then, taking all that information, they'll walk to wherever the computer or terminal is in the warehouse. They're going to look up the location so they know where to go for put away once they have these all kind of unpacked. Then they'll walk back to the receiving location and direct those put aways from there. And then when that's all said and done, they'll go back to the terminal and they'll key all of this information into NetSuite to make sure it's updated. So that's around 5 touch points, could be more depending on the process in your warehouse, but that's a pretty lengthy system. And not only is it lengthy, but you can see room for error in almost every step, right? And then we're going to look at, if you were to implement, let's say RF Smart, what that would look like on our end. So the first thing you're going to do is your warehouse worker is going to be scanning and transacting from the purchase order as soon as these items arrive. So it scans and transmits right into NetSuite in live time. That's part of that built for NetSuite native suite app. And then you're going to do put away based off of the handheld instruction. So we have directed put away, which will tell you where to send all these things, not having to go back and forth to the computer or terminal to find that information. Also, the handheld device will be able to alert you if there's a shortage or if there are items needed right away. So it can just be really advanced in its ability to call out those differences and ultimately save time back and forth. So in this particular instance, we're looking at a 5 touch point system with many manual data errors versus real-time visibility and a lot less room for error. So that's one example of one of the differences that can ultimately be helpful. And depending on how much you're receiving in a day, this can save a lot of time in your warehouse and a lot of errors. So then we'll look at counting. So counting is the area, I know if you have a warehouse, you can see a lot of issue in this area. It's where the most room for error in a warehouse occurs, really. So let's look at the manual side of this. The first thing that your team's going to do is print out the counting sheets. I would wager that that's probably over 100 pieces of paper for most warehouses. And then they're going to grab one and go to that area and start counting manually. Again, pen and paper, manual. If there's any discrepancies or there's any confusion, they'll mark them there. This is a huge area where data can be skewed because human error is just a real thing. So we try to limit that as much as possible, but it definitely happens with manual counts. And then from there, like with the other example, information must go back, be keyed into NetSuite manually once the count has been done. So yes, a longer process and definitely more room for error there even than in receiving. And then let's go to the RF Smart side of things. So if you implement RF Smart, this is all handheld driven. So the warehouse user is going to be able to be guided by the RF Smart counting logic. The user is going to enter the amount on the handheld and it's updated in NetSuite automatically. So these are they get to the same goal ultimately, but very different ways to get there and truly much less room for error on the RF Smart side of things. You're looking at a really reliable form and certainly more accurate form of counting versus a lot more time and more room for manual error on the left side. So this is one of those differentiators that can be hugely helpful in warehouses and save a lot of time and ultimately money. So these are just two examples, but how does this manual versus automated kind of affect overall productivity? So number one, if we're writing down and keying our transactions into our system of record in NetSuite, this is largely inefficient and certainly takes a lot more time. But with RF Smart, we're eliminating this keying entirely. So that scanning is going to transmit that data in live time, not only being more efficient, but also going to ultimately keep your warehouse workers doing the work you hired them for, getting them on the floor, making sure that they're taking care of the warehouse and not spending their time at a keyboard typing in all these transactions. Next, the issue of walking back and forth to complete these transactions may not seem like a huge issue, but depending on the amount of times a day you're doing it, it can waste so much time in a warehouse. Whereas our product can guide your workers on the best path for picking and put away. So it's another great differentiator in the space there. And then this is a big one that we see an issue with a lot of people before they come to RF Smart is having to shut down their operations for multiple hours or days to complete physical counts. We replaced this model with RF Smart. So when RF Smart's implemented, you'll complete one full physical count at the beginning of implementation, and then you'll have cycle counts daily during production to eliminate the need to have to shut down. But additionally, our cycle counts do not require you to shut down operation. You can continue to receive and ship as we do these cycle counts. So it's saving you time, definitely more efficient, and certainly going to keep your warehouse in order more efficiently. So having talked through a lot of the functionality, even though there's so much more we could touch on, and we're happy to drill into any of those things in a later conversation, why RF Smart? There's a lot of WMS platforms out there. Meridian is very well versed in those as well. There's a few reasons why I think RF Smart's a standout, aside from the technical functionality that I want to share. Number one is the out-of-the-box solution. The technical side is really strong, but it's the way that we approach being a 360 solution provider that's built for NetSuite. So keeping NetSuite as that system of truth, which is vital when you're implementing NetSuite and making that huge investment. We have a dedicated software, services, support, and hardware team. We'll touch a little bit on the hardware in a moment. And it's ultimately scalable in that way. And secondly, we have this extensive supply chain experience that makes the former possible. So we are leaders in mobility. Again, we're celebrating our 40 years in September. So we have many, many people who've been with the company for that long, if not just shorter than that. And they've really created this tried and true method with their industry experience. And that's led to really high customer satisfaction. We know if you're working in inventory, you understand how important it is to get your product out and make the customer happy. We feel exactly the same way. And so we have over 2,000 global customers, same amount of implementations, 24/7 support available. You're never going to have a moment where you can't get in touch with RF Smart to fix any issues you may be having. And of course, we have reviews on suiteapp.com that you can look at, or take a look at our case studies on our website. That's a good place to kind of see where we've maybe worked with products like yours to see what solutioning they looked at. And of course, you can always get engaged with our team to learn a little bit more. I did want to touch on this. We do have a dedicated hardware team. A lot of people will come to us for hardware before they actually get involved on the software side of things. It's an amazing group of people, and what they do is really are industry experts in the hardware side as far as getting you the right printers, scanners, all the things you may need. They also can keep a backlog for you. If you were to ever have any issues with your scanners, they can send out a fresh new one that's configured. So really great team, one-stop shop for the hardware side as well. Again, all part of that 360 solutioning that we try to do. So to go with RF Smart, I'll just talk a little bit about what the implementation process looks like and what you can expect as we work with Meridian as our partner. Like I said earlier, one of our strengths is the partnerships that we've created in this NetSuite ecosystem, which is why it's so great Meridian's doing these kind of presentations, because there's so many different solutions to learn about. Our partnership with Meridian is a great example. So what you can expect when looking at RF Smart with an implementation like Meridian is an initial knowledge transfer call during which it's part of our startup phase, right? So our sales team will connect to find your individual pain points, where you're having issues in your warehouse, learn a little bit more about what you may need. And then we'll offer a personalized demo to show you what RF Smart would accomplish in your particular use case. So you're really seeing that functionality up front as you move forward. Then we get into the planning phase. So with our sales team, the partner team, our internal solution staff, we're going to begin to solution the details of your RF Smart implementation around those pain points, around those areas of scalability you're looking for. And then we're going to go to our configuration and testing phase. So our business analysts and implementation team create and test the product for your specific instance until it's ready to go live. Again, this is all done with the support of your partnership team. So Meridian will be working with us every step of the way to make sure it's cohesive with what's currently being done in your NetSuite instance. And then 4 is the go live phase. So this is where it gets really fun, right? So our Smart's live, but before we officially implement, like I said, we're going to do one full physical count, make sure that we know exactly where your inventory stands. And then from there, we're going to let the solution work and see how we need to scale it moving forward. And that's where the manage phase comes in. Like I said, each customer has a dedicated account executive that acts as kind of a project manager moving forward as you continue to grow with RF Smart. So we often see companies scale pretty significantly after implementation, which is great. And so this account executive will ensure we're consistently assessing your needs and implementing new functionality and modules as needed. And another thing we offer, again, we try to make a wide variety of touch points for you as the customer. We have a dedicated knowledge base. So aside from our 24/7 support access that is completely available, we have this amazing resource that you get when you're a customer. Essentially, it allows you to search through 350 articles. It's a quick search to find simple solutions, which it's being built out. There's many more articles being added very frequently. So it's a great solution for you to keep things as easy and functional as possible for the little things that come up day to day that may be going wonky. If they do happen to be, then we always have 24/7 support available for any other questions as well. So before we get into I think maybe the more fun part where we get to see a little bit about what RF Smart for NetSuite looks like, I wanted to just touch on where we may fit moving forward. If you look at the left here, these are all things we hear from customers that kind of let us know maybe we should get involved with in the conversation or we're a potential fit for their WMS solution. Oftentimes customers are looking for, warehouse efficiency. They need scanning, barcoding options. They have hardware needs, so they're not sure where to go to. Having a lot of inventory accuracy problems, manual processes are dragging down their efficiency. All of those things. If these are things that are coming up in your conversations, or even some of your solutioning time with Meridian and their team, that's a good indicator that you should get in touch with our team to see if we can map an appropriate solution for you and create a warehouse management solution that ultimately is going to function well and help you grow and flourish as a company in your warehouse. Additionally, if you take a look at this green box to the right, you'll see some of our differentiators and some advanced functionality that we do offer. So when it comes to things like license plating, manufacturing with work in progress, you need some advanced planning tools or picking tools. These are all areas where we can offer advanced solutioning, scalable solutioning, and it really sets us apart from our competitors in this space. So please don't hesitate if any of this is something you'd like to have more information about, reach out and we can get you connected. So before I pass it over to Kyle, I just wanted to let you know a few ways to get in touch. Kyle's going to show us a little bit more about some functionality. He's going to show us a split screen, so we'll be able to see the NetSuite side of things versus the RF Smart side of things for about 15 minutes or so. But if you do want to get in touch with our team, feel free to use me as a resource. Like I said, I work with partners all the time to make sure that we're offering the best solutions. So if you have any questions, feel free to email either of these emails on the screen or get in touch with the Meridian team. We work really closely and they're happy to get in touch as well. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen now. And Kyle, I'm going to let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Abby. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. So on the screen here, you should be seeing NetSuite to the left and then a RF Smart device to the right. And really what I'll do is really paint the picture of what RF Smart is really doing. And to reiterate what Abby kind of kicked off the call with is NetSuite is going to be that single source of truth. So what that really means at the end of the day is that RF Smart is going to use NetSuite transactions, NetSuite bins, NetSuite inventory levels, and things of that nature. So that way the right-hand side of this screen is what your warehouse associate is going to see and live and breathe as they go through. The right hand or the left hand side, I should say, is really where the data is coming from. So we're not pulling this out of thin air. We're not two separate databases. We're living and breathing within NetSuite based on the information that is being provided to us. We do generate transactions, meaning for like the POs, you'll see me walk through one today. We'll generate an item receipt for you. And Abby hinted at the idea that we keep track of KPIs. We absolutely do, where you can build very strategic or very fine-tuned KPIs on every transaction under the RSmart menu. I'll give you just a little bit of a flavor as far as receiving, a little put away, and then a basic pick. But there's plenty of additional options. You can see even this list of functions that I'm highlighting here to the right, there's quite a bit that RSmart has to offer, along with more advanced functionality. So to get us started, just take a look here real quick at an item master record. I only come here just to show that you can see how we are built on the platform. So you'll note that we are also living inside of NetSuite where we actually have our own tabs. I can pull up our client straight from NetSuite, living inside of NetSuite, breathing inside of NetSuite. And you're also notating here that we have records on the item master record, which are really just extensions. So whether or not that is using multiple UPCs, right? Existing barcodes that our vendors provide us, using existing barcodes, that's really what this table is displaying. Maybe it's printing out your own labels at the time of receipt, all things that RSmart can help you out with during implementation. So we can really go either way there, whether or not we're helping building the labels as things come in, or if we're using the existing labels that the vendor may or may not be providing to us. So a little bit of a background there. So with that being the table really being set there, let's take a look at our purchase order here to the left. I mentioned this is really what we are keying off of. So we'll use a purchase order receiving function. I won't show this today, but there is a lot of tally scanning capability within RSmart as well when you're receiving, when you're picking, when you're counting. And that's really just so I am forcing my user to scan. And when I say that, that's more or less doing a tally scan or a scan item, meaning if 10 cases show up, I force my user to scan all 10 cases and accumulates by a quantity of 1 versus enter in a quantity field. So won't show that today, but it is there. Plenty of different options as far as how things are coming in. We're labeling them while also in real time receiving against this purchase order. So ideally, right, my PO is going to be listed on the packing slip, so I can type it into my device. I can scan it in if it's in barcode format. I get selected off a list as well. Won't spend too much time harping on that. Let's just get into our purchase order. And let's say I scan my PO. I have to pull my device in here a little bit closer so I don't lose connection. And what we're going to do for the user is really display a color scheme that is simplistic, but there's a point to it, right? That we want to make the experience easy for the user. So red, it would signify no action at the line level. Yellow would be a partial, and then green, you've satisfied the line. So the intention here is to scan the product, enter the quantity in this particular process flow that I'm going to walk you through here in a second. We can work in non-bin environments, in your bin environments or retail stores, you name it, as well as the different gamut of item types that NetSuite does provide. So think lots, serials, matrix items, regular items, you name it. We can receive and transact of all those different item types as well. So what I'll show you is really just a lot example just to get the wheels turning a little bit. And if we have enough time, bounce around to a couple different item types as we go through. So let's say my product comes in, it's labeled. I will scan that UPC here. And what we are going to display to the user is really the option of whether or not they want to generate a lot number, because we can generate lots or serials. Let me actually clarify that piece. This would be for if your vendors are not providing a lot or serialized product, but you want to apply a lot or serialized code to this product, we can generate one for you. And as we mentioned on the label printing side, provide that on the label. So it's tangible, it's on my product, it's ready to go. Otherwise, we have plenty of different options around barcode parsing. So like in this example with this gum, for example, if my vendor gave me a barcode that had the item, the lot, and the expiration date, all in one string, RSmart can read that barcode. We can parse it out so it's one string of data, and your user's just scanning, capturing all this useful information as they go. So many different ways you can combat it. Let's say just for today's sake, I just keep it basic. I scan a lot. If I'm collecting expiration dates, my next screen would be to collect the expiration date. And here with a non-tally scan version, I am just going to go ahead and enter in the quantity of what I've received for this particular line. And if I have automatic label printing set up, it'll go ahead and spit out some labels for me, but you see the line falls to the bottom of the list, signifying them dumb the line and I can move on to the next product. So receiving, very, very clean, very intuitive for the end user. A couple different icons, things like that really help out the users. So around like cross-dock notifications, that's what that little truck icon is signifying. We can work with regular items serialized, as I mentioned as well. It's just a little bit different of a screen flow, right? If we're not collecting any lots or serials, we're not gonna bring you to that screen at all. So you'll also note that we have imagery available. We pull that off the item master record as well through the web store, or we have our own URL field that you can also apply your images to. That's consistent with every single function across the board. So the last thing I'll mention here when it comes to receiving is really the putaways. We'll actually talk about a true putaway example, but there is a concept of direct to bin where I don't do a two-step, meaning I don't receiving in and then I put it away into an individual bin. There is a concept of default receiving where you just receive all this inventory, whether it's one item, whether it's a partial line, whether it's all the items on the PO, it's all going to sit in this systemic bin. And also, physically sitting at like the dock door or something along those lines, where our next phase will be doing a bin put away where it's moving the inventory from the inbound bin or kind of that virtual bin to the actual stock bin. We also have options available around direct to bin concepts. So if I don't want a two-step and I just want to put things away one time, touch them once and then put them away, we also have functionality to support that as well. But to keep us moving here, if I were to hit submit, we will generate an item receipt for anything that has been received against this particular purchase order that I've received in here on the device. So my next step, if I had a two-step process where I received it in, our smart generated my item receipt, we know exactly who processed that particular product. My next step of the process is going to be putting it away. So you see it defaults to the default receiving bin. I'll simply scan the product and actually go put away this product. So this example will be lot controlled. I'll scan the product, I'll collect the lot number, and what we are going to display is kind of more of a directed, if not suggestive, put away concept, where we're going to display to the user, here's your list of bins of where this product sits right now. You can get very strategic with things like capacities, with bin max levels. We do replenishment concepts as well. Won't spend any time on that today. Just want to give you really a peek of the functionality, and give you an idea of how things are flowing and how intuitive it is for the end user. So after I've entered in the quantity of what I'm putting away into a bin, I absolutely do not have to put it away into the bin, any of the bins that are listed below. I'll simply just scan the to bin of where this inventory is going into. So I've received it in via scanning, I'm putting it away via scanning, and I'm going to scan it when I pick it. When I count it, they're scanning all the way through. So that would be our put away process, kind of in combination with receiving. And the last one that we'll just show for today, just to keep it very high level, will just be a single sales order picking concept where our smart can leverage the NetSuite pick tickets. For a lot of customers and prospects, that's always a good comfortable option, just because you're used to having a traveler or a pick ticket. And you can see here we have plenty of different picking options. So whether or not I want to pick one order at a time, I want to do bulk picking, multi-order picking, I want to force scan for single order picking, or maybe I want to do a pick, pack, ship model. So here, even in our base offering, plenty of different ways that you can pick. And we mentioned that there's more advanced picking modules that will be available as well around Pick Manager and Pick Planner for more of your wave picking, your optimal pick paths, things like that, where you really want the software to do all the work for you as far as grouping, clustering picks, and clustering orders for you. For today's sake, we'll just take a look at a basic example where I have a order. We'll go ahead and scan this pick ticket here off of with my device. And we will direct the user to the bin of where the inventory is located. We will scan, validate all the items and their quantities. First, I'll go ahead and scan that sales order number. We will suggest a bin to the user. This is based off of what we call a picking logic, which is really like if the same item lives in multiple bins and there's a decision to be made of what bin we should pick out of first, that is the first bin that's being recommended to the user. So there's three different logics there. You can have FIFO, FIFO, preferred bins, or there's a best bin or pick to clear concept. So many different ways that you can make that decision through the software. So your users already recommended that bin and they're just following the recommendation based on if you find yourself in that typical scenario. So let's say I scan the first product. I'm going to scan the product, scan the bin, enter the quantity. You'll see my line will turn green. I can move on to the next product. Let's say this one is serialized. I scan that product, I scan that serial, and you see the colors begin to change as we go through. Another important note here is we do have options to configure or sequence your bin however way that you choose. Again, assume that you're going to use bins. This also, as I mentioned in the front end, does work without bins. So many different ways we can do fulfillments. We're really generating the fulfillment and then handing it off to like a packing and shipping station or a place where you can pack and ship it. I showed just very quickly in the menu that there's a pick, pack, ship module available as well, and plenty of other options within RFSmart. But you can see here, very straightforward, clean to the user. If for whatever reason they scan the incorrect product, for example, we're going to go ahead and tell the user, hey, that's not right. They'll get an audible noise saying that the product's not correct on that particular order based on what that scan or that UPC is. So from an RFSmart standpoint, that's really what we are planning on showing. So what I will do is stop my share here real quick and pass the ball back over.
All right, Abby, did you have anything further to close out your portion of the session here?
No, I'm good. I just want to thank everyone again for joining. Happy to get in touch, and you can certainly contact the Meridian team as well, and we can get involved from there. But thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
You bet. Kyle, Abby, can't thank you enough for taking the time out today to share a little bit about RFSmart. I will remind everybody again, our next Spotlight series on Celigo and integration as a service is June 23rd at 1. Abby, if you could advance the deck a little bit. And again, a reminder, Meridian is an expert in all phases of ERP solutions. If you are contemplating, change platform, please give us a shout. We can help with any area that NetSuite covers, and certainly put you in touch with sales representatives at RFSmart that work with Abby and Kyle on a day-to-day basis. Abby, go ahead and advance. And if you have any questions on today's sessions, you can use a contact us form at meridianbusiness.com or send an email to us at sales@meridianbusiness.com. Info, well, it's not here, info@rfsmart.com. It can be used to interact with RFSmart directly. Or Abby, I believe your email is abby.bennett, 2 N's, 2 T's, at rfsmart.com. And
Yep, that's
we
correct.
will pass that information on to all attendees, both the Meridian websites and access methods, as well as RFSmarts. With that, we are right at 1:45 and at the conclusion of our prepared material. A recording of this will be made available on our social posts, and a blog post with the content will be on the Meridian website here in a couple of days. So thank you all for attending, and very much appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about our partner, RFSmart. Take care. Abby and Kyle, thank you again.